My name is Elena Cartwright, and I'm 32 years old. If you'd driven past my life a year ago, you probably would have thought, she's fine, she's got it together. Small third-floor apartment with plants that actually stayed alive, a car that started on the first try, and a calendar color-coded within an inch of its life. I paid my bills on time, contributed to my 401k, meal prepped on Sundays. I knew how many ounces of detergent my washing machine liked, and the exact day my rent auto-drafted. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, predictable, mine. And for a while, I thought I was building something real with someone inside that stability. His name was Caleb Foster, 34. The kind of easy, boyish charm that makes servers linger at the table and makes strangers overshare in line at the coffee shop. We matched on a dating app last January. His profile said he worked in finance, liked hiking, could cook exactly 3 things well, and had an embarrassingly strong opinion about old movies. We messaged for a week, then met up for tacos and a black and white film at a tiny indie theater downtown. It was easy. Effortless conversation, shared jokes, that floating feeling when you realize you're not mentally calculating your escape route after 15 minutes. By March, it felt like we were something. We spent most weekends together. He kept a toothbrush in my bathroom and a hoodie on the back of my desk chair. My friends met him. He laughed at their teasing. They approved of his manners. We talked about taking a trip in the fall, a cabin somewhere quiet maybe, where the Wi-Fi was bad and the stars were good. We had the talk in late March. I remember because I'd rehearsed it in my head like a presentation. We were on my couch, pizza box open, some movie half playing in the background. My heart was pounding louder than the soundtrack. So, I'd started, pretending to care very deeply about the pepperoni slice I was holding. What are we doing? Like, labels-wise? He'd glanced over, mouth tilted up in a small smile. You tell me, he said. What do you want? I want to date you, I'd said, forcing myself not to soften it. Like, actually date you. No seeing each other casually with a million other people in the background. If that's not where you're at, I'd rather know. He'd held my gaze for a beat. Then he smiled wider, reached over, and intertwined our fingers. Okay, he said. You're my girlfriend, Elena. If the label helps you feel secure, then yeah, you're it. It was such a small sentence, but it rearranged things in my head. I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. The tense knot in my chest loosened. For the next few months, I lived as if that sentence were a contract. By early summer, though, little things started to shift. Nothing dramatic at first. Texts took longer to get replies. Plans we'd made weeks in advance suddenly got "work is insane" or "I'm wiped, can we rain check?" attached to them. He'd go quiet for a day or two, then pop back in with a casual, "Sorry, crazy day," as if my anxiety hadn't been pacing the floor in the meantime. When I asked if everything was okay, he'd sigh and talk about burnout, pressure at work, needing space to decompress. I don't want to dump all my stress on you, he'd say. You're the best part of my life right now. I just need to get my head straight. Everyone says relationships go through phases. Not everything can stay in the honeymoon glow, right? That's what I told myself. I wanted to be understanding, the kind of girlfriend who didn't freak out every time he needed a night to himself. I ignored the way my stomach tightened every time his need for space lined up a little too neatly with Friday nights. 3 weeks ago, the illusion cracked. We were supposed to have dinner that Saturday. Nothing complicated. I'd cleaned my apartment, changed my sheets, even made a reservation at his favorite Italian place, as a surprise. I was halfway through setting the table when my phone buzzed. Caleb, hey, I'm really not feeling well. Think I'm coming down with something. Can we reschedule? I stared at the message, disappointment flaring and then flattening into something dull. Me, I'm sorry you're sick. Get some rest, okay? We can do it another time. He sent a sad face emoji and a heart. I put the plates back in the cabinet, canceled the reservation, and told myself this was what grown-ups did. They were flexible. They took people at their word. At 9:12 p.m., my phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from my friend, Nolan Briggs. Nolan doesn't do casual small talk over text. His messages are usually either memes or emergencies. This one was a photo and 3 words. Is this your guy? The photo was from Hendrix, a bar downtown. Low lighting, neon signs, generic string lights. It took me a second to adjust to the blur and shadows. Then I saw him. Caleb, sitting at a high-top table, leaning toward a woman with dark hair and a bright laugh frozen mid-frame. His arm was draped casually around her shoulders like it belonged there. She was turned toward him, her hand resting on his thigh, their heads close enough that they could have shared the same breath. My entire body went cold, the kind of cold that starts in your ribs and radiates outward, like someone opened a door in your chest and winter walked in. I zoomed in just to make sure my brain wasn't inventing things. It wasn't. It was absolutely, undeniably him. I reread his text from 4 hours earlier, really not feeling well. I don't remember deciding to call him. 1 second I was staring at the photo. The next my thumb was pressing his name and the dial tone was roaring in my ear. He answered on the 4th ring. There was music in the background. Bass thudding, voices overlapping, a kind of muffled laughter that made my skin crawl. "Hey," he said, sounding annoyingly cheerful. "What's up?" "What are you doing right now?" I asked. He hesitated, almost imperceptibly, but it was there. Just out with some friends," he said. "Why?" "Which friends?" "Elena, what's going on?" I swallowed, forcing my voice to stay level. "My friend is at Hendrix," I said. "He just sent me a picture of you. You're at a table with some woman. Your arm is around her. So I'll ask you again, what are you doing right now?" There was a longer pause this time. I could almost hear the gears turning. "You're being paranoid," he said finally. "She's just a friend. We ran into each other. It's not a big deal." "She's not just a friend," I said. "And you didn't run into each other. You told me you were sick. You canceled our plans. Now you're at a bar with your arm around some random woman. Those two things can't both be true." He exhaled sharply, the sound crackling through the speaker. "Look, I wasn't feeling great earlier," he said, "but I rallied. Nolan's making this into a thing because that's what he does. You know how he is." "Nolan sent a photo," I said. "There's no angle here. There's just reality." Another beat of silence. The music in the background swelled. Someone laughed too close to his phone. "Fine," he said. "Her name's Lila. We've been seeing each other." The words didn't land all at once. They came in pieces. "We've been seeing," and then fused into something that knocked the air out of my lungs. "You've been seeing each other," I repeated, "while you've been dating me." "We're not exclusive, Elena," he said. My vision sharpened so suddenly it almost hurt. "Caleb," I said quietly, "we literally had a conversation about being exclusive, on my couch, over pizza. You held my hand and said I was your girlfriend." "I said that because you seemed to need the label," he said. "You were anxious, and I wanted you to feel secure, but I never promised I wouldn't see other people. You just assumed." My hand clenched around the phone so tightly my fingers ached. "So these last 9 months," I said slowly, "you've just been keeping your options open?" "There's nothing wrong with that," he said. "Until you're married, it's all just dating. People act like they own each other after a few months. It's unhealthy." "What's unhealthy," I said, my voice shaking now, "is letting someone believe they're in a committed relationship with you while you're simultaneously building a second relationship behind their back. Does Lila know about me?" "That's none of your business." "It absolutely is my business. Does she know you have a girlfriend?" "You're not my girlfriend, Elena," he snapped. "You're someone I've been spending time with. Stop acting like I owe you loyalty. I don't." There it was. A sentence that sliced cleanly through 9 months of memories and left everything bleeding on the floor. For a moment, all I could hear was my own heartbeat and the dull roar of the bar on his end. Someone shouted something. Caleb laughed weakly, trying to pretend our conversation wasn't cracking his smooth facade in real time. "I see," I said finally. "Elena." I didn't wait to hear the rest. I hung up, set the phone down on the coffee table with slow, deliberate care, like it was something fragile that might explode. I stared at the wall for a long time, the room suddenly too quiet, too sharp. Then I picked up the phone again. I blocked his number, blocked him on social media, archived our photos. Not because I was ready to move on, but because I needed to stop the bleeding. The thing about "I don't owe you loyalty" is that once someone says it out loud, you finally believe them. You just wish you'd believed them sooner. The week after that phone call blurred into something that barely felt like a week at all. Time turned into a series of small, repetitive motions. Wake up, shower too hot, drink coffee that tasted like nothing, go to work, pretend spreadsheets were the most important thing in the world. Come home, stare at my phone. Like it was a hostile witness, sleep in shallow, jagged pieces. I told Nolan what happened, of course. He came over the next day with takeout and the kind of furious energy only a protective friend can summon. "I knew I didn't like his face," he said, pacing my living room with a carton of lo mein in his hand. "It's a very punchable face. I stand by that." "You liked him fine," I said dully. "I tolerated him for you. That's different." He put the food down and sat across from me. You know this isn't on you, right? I nodded because that's what you're supposed to do when people say things like that. Half of me knew he was right. The other half replayed every moment I'd ignored my gut and tried to be understanding. I blocked Caleb everywhere, and he made it disturbingly easy to stay blocked. No frantic attempts to reach me, no grand gestures at my door, no flowers or apologies, just silence. It was like he'd flipped a switch and moved on to whatever version of his life didn't include me. The absence stung more than I wanted to admit. Being replaced hurts. Being discarded without a second thought carves anywhere there's skin. A week later, I was on my lunch break, scrolling mindlessly through my phone when Nolan's name popped up again. This time it wasn't a picture, it was a link. Before you open it, his text read, maybe sit down. I was already sitting, but my hand still trembled as I tapped the screen. The link opened Instagram. The post loaded slowly, my signal dragging its feet like it knew this was going to be bad. It was a close-up shot of a hand. Perfect nails, soft lighting, a diamond ring catching the light just right. In the background, blurred fairy lights, a restaurant table, someone's out-of-focus grin. The caption read, "She said yes. Can't wait to spend forever with you." Tagged in the photo, at Caleb Foster and at Lila Designs. I didn't need to click through to recognize the woman from the photo at Hendrix. Lila, the one he'd been seeing. I stared at the ring for a long time. Long enough that my screen dimmed and I had to tap it back to life. 3 months, maybe a little more, depending on when he'd decided I was just someone he was spending time with, and she was the one worthy of a proposal. 3 months from, we've been seeing each other, to forever. My stomach twisted. Part of it was pure acidic jealousy. He was giving her the version of commitment he dangled in front of me like a carrot. Part of it was something uglier, a nauseous understanding that he'd built that engagement on a lie. He'd asked me to be in a committed relationship while he was shopping for a wife. I clicked into Lila's profile. Her grid was all soft aesthetics, coffee shops, design work, sunsets, shots of Caleb's jawline while he pretended not to notice the camera. The captions were full of things like "my person" and "home isn't a place, it's you." The oldest couple photo I could find went back about 3 months, which meant that right around the time I thought we were hitting our 9-month stride, he was onboarding a new girlfriend and planting her into his future like a flag. Nolan texted again. "You okay?" I didn't answer at first. I sat there with my plastic fork suspended over my salad, my appetite evaporating. Somewhere between my ribs, something hardened. This wasn't just about me anymore. Lila had no idea who she was saying yes to. She was planning forever with a man who could look someone in the eye, call her his girlfriend, then turn around and build a parallel life with someone else. There's a debate people like to have about whether it's your place to tell someone they're being cheated on, whether it's meddling or kindness, cowardice or compassion. It turns out the answer feels very different when you're the one who knows the ugly part of the story. For a few days, I did nothing. I told myself it wasn't my business, that stepping back was the most mature option. I told myself Lila wouldn't believe a stranger over the man she just agreed to marry. I told myself that if I stayed out of it, I wouldn't have to be connected to Caleb in any way ever again. At night, I lay awake and pictured her picking out flowers and venues, while he spun whatever version of the truth made him look like the hero. I pictured her selling the story of their love to her friends and family, completely unaware of the missing chapters. The last straw wasn't the engagement post. It was what came after. 2 days later, she posted a photo of them at dinner, her ring tilted toward the camera, his arm around her, both of them smiling like the world had finally arranged itself correctly. The caption read, "I always knew you were different. You've never once made me doubt you." I stared at that line until the words blurred. Then I opened my browser and created a new Instagram account. No profile picture, no real name. Just an empty shell with a single purpose. I went to Lila's account, tapped message, and sat there for a full 5 minutes, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Finally, I typed, "Hi Lila, you don't know me, and this is going to sound insane, but please read this before you block me." I deleted it, started over. "Hey Lila, congratulations on your engagement. I'm reaching out because I think you deserve to know something before you marry Caleb." My heart hammered against my ribs. I could hear the murmur of my upstairs neighbor's TV, the faint whoosh of cars outside, the tiny hum of my refrigerator. Everything felt too loud and too quiet at the same time. I kept typing. My name doesn't matter, but I was in a relationship with Caleb for 9 months. We started dating last January. He told me we were exclusive. We had the girlfriend conversation in March. I only found out about you when my friend sent me a photo of you and Caleb at Hendrick's bar. The same night he told me he was sick and canceled our plans. My thumb hovered over send. I forced myself not to think about how Caleb would react if this got back to him. Instead, I thought about that caption. Never once made me doubt you. I'm not trying to ruin your engagement, I wrote. I just think you should know he let me believe I was in a committed relationship up until about a week before your proposal. If you want proof, I have texts and photos with timestamps, including a conversation where he admitted he'd been seeing someone else while with me. I attached screenshots, messages where he called me babe, plans we made, that pizza night conversation where he agreed we were exclusive, the recent call log, the text where he canceled because he was sick. I added one more line. What you do with this is your choice. I just didn't want you to say yes without knowing who you were really saying yes to. Then I hit send. For a second, nothing happened. The message sat there, marked as sent, not yet seen. I logged out of the burner account, turned my phone face down on the table, and went to take a shower so hot it turned the bathroom into a fog bank. By the time I came back, there was no reply. Her profile was private now. A few hours later, the engagement post was gone. 2 days after that, an unknown number lit up my phone. I almost didn't answer. Every cell in my body said let it go. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. Hello? Elena? His voice was so familiar my chest clenched around it. Who is this? I asked, even though we both knew. It's Caleb. He spat the name out like he expected it to carry weight. We need to talk. We really don't, I said. Oh, we do. His tone sharpened. There was an edge there I hadn't heard before, something stripped of charm. What the hell did you do? I closed my eyes briefly. So, Lila had believed me, at least enough to confront him. I told someone the truth, I said. That's all. You had no right to message her. His voice rose, losing its smoothness. You don't get to insert yourself into my relationship because you're bitter it didn't work out with us. I didn't insert myself into anything, I said quietly. You inserted me when you decided to overlap your relationships and lie about it. You asked me to be your girlfriend while you were auditioning someone else for the role of fiancé. She deserved to know that. You ruined everything, he snapped. Do you have any idea what you've done to my life? My reputation? Yes, I said. I exposed the part of your life that was built on a lie. Whatever falls apart because of that wasn't stable to begin with. He laughed, short and humorless. You're vindictive, he said. You're obsessed. You couldn't just move on, you had to punish me. You told me you didn't owe me loyalty, I said. I believed you. I did move on. But she didn't know she was saying yes to someone who thought commitment was a semantic loophole. I wasn't going to let her walk into that blind. She's calling off the engagement, he snarled. Her family's asking questions, my coworkers heard. You humiliated me. I felt a flicker of something, satisfaction maybe, but it was drowned by something else, exhaustion. I didn't humiliate you, I said. You did that when you chose to juggle women instead of being honest with either of us. You're going to regret this, he said, voice dropping, something darker sliding beneath the anger. You don't get to blow up my life and walk away like nothing happened. A sliver of unease slid down my spine. I'm hanging up now, I said. Don't call me again. Elena? I ended the call. My hand shook as I set the phone down. I stood there in my kitchen, listening to the hum of the fridge and the pounding of my heart, trying to decide if I'd just done something brave or catastrophically stupid. Maybe both. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, is that for some people, the truth doesn't just sting. It detonates. And when it does, they don't look at the bomb they built themselves. They look for someone else to blame. 2 quiet weeks passed. Quiet isn't the right word, really. Not when my brain replayed every version of Caleb's voice on a loop. Not when every unknown number made my pulse jump. But he didn't call again, and Lila didn't message me. And for a moment I let myself believe that the worst of it, the betrayal, the unraveling, the confrontation, was over. I should have known better. It happened on a Tuesday, late enough that the building had settled into its usual nighttime hush. My apartment is old, the kind that makes noises the way a person exhales in their sleep. I'd gotten used to those sounds years ago. But at 11:47 p.m., the sound that woke me wasn't my pipes or the wind. It was pounding. Heavy, frantic knocking that rattled the metal frame, each hit a little more desperate than the one before it. I froze. Every instinct in my body went tight, every nerve screaming one word, Caleb. I grabbed my phone, ready to call 911, and crept toward the peephole. My breath caught when the distorted silhouette on the other side shifted. Not a broad, familiar masculine frame. A smaller one. Shaking. slumped, crying. Lila. Mascara streaked down her cheeks like ink dragged through water. Her hair was a mess, her coat half-buttoned like she'd run out of her apartment with shaking hands. She kept glancing over her shoulder as if someone, one specific someone, might have followed her. I didn't open the door immediately. For a full 5 seconds, I just stood there, forehead pressed to the cool metal, torn cleanly in half. One part of me, the logical, self-preserving part, said, "Don't open it. This isn't your business. Whatever this is, you don't owe her anything. You've already been dragged through enough." The other part of me, the human part, saw a terrified woman alone in the hallway and couldn't pretend she didn't exist. Against better judgment, I unlocked the deadbolt and opened the door. She slipped through like she expected someone to grab her ankle. I shut the door behind her and only then really saw her condition. Her hands were trembling violently. Her breathing came in short, uneven bursts. She hugged her arms around herself like she was trying to hold her own ribs together. "Lila?" I said softly. What happened?" She didn't answer right away. She stared at my floor like words were too slippery to grasp. "I'm sorry," she choked out finally. "I know I shouldn't be here. I know it's late. I didn't know where else to go." "What happened?" I repeated. She lifted her head, and for the first time I saw fear. Not the mild, anxious kind, but the bone-deep kind that turns people hollow. "It's Caleb." Of course it was. What did he do? Her phone was already in her hands. She unlocked it with shaking fingers and turned the screen toward me. Dozens, literally dozens of messages filled the thread. Caleb's name at the top. The timestamps. From earlier that evening, then escalating rapidly. The tone, unhinged. He called her every name in the book, accused her of humiliating him, said she'd made a fool of him in front of coworkers, family, people who respected him. Said she'd regret ever thinking she could walk away. "I didn't even say anything to anyone," she whispered. I confronted him. I asked him why he lied, why he thought it was okay to propose to me when he wasn't done with someone else. He said I was dramatic. He said you were crazy. He said he only dated you because he felt sorry for you. My jaw clenched involuntarily. "And then," she continued, voice breaking, "he started yelling, like really yelling. He said I ruined his life, said I destroyed his reputation. He's been sending these messages for hours." I pressed my lips together, scanning the texts. He didn't just sound angry. He sounded volatile, uncontrolled, dangerous. And then she showed me the part that made the hair on my arm stand straight up. "He came to my apartment." Her throat tightened around the sentence. "He kicked my door, screamed. My neighbors heard everything. One of them threatened to call the police. That's when he finally left." I felt a cold, creeping dread slide into my stomach. "Lila, did you call the police yourself?" "I can't," she said instantly, shaking her head hard. "They'll think I'm overreacting. And what would I even say? My fiancé is mad at me because he lied to me? I don't know what they'll take seriously. If he's threatening you and showed up at your home, that's more than enough." "No, you don't understand," she whispered. "There's more." She scrolled up, higher, past the engagement messages, past the cheerful ones, past the ones where he flirted and joked, past what looked like the normal courting stage. Higher, until suddenly the tone changed, and my breath left my body. "Are you telling me this was happening before he proposed?" I asked. She nodded, tears spilling again. "He started getting jealous, possessive. He'd tell me what to wear, who I should unfollow. He'd get angry if I didn't respond fast enough. At first I thought it was just intensity or insecurity, but then he started saying things that scared me, that he wouldn't let me go, that he couldn't lose me, that he'd fix things if I tried to leave." "And you still said yes to his proposal." "I was scared," she cried. "He had this moment where he was sweet again, calm, apologetic, and then he proposed in front of my family and I panicked. I thought saying no would set him off in front of everyone. I thought I could figure it out later. I didn't know what else to do." I ran a hand down my face, frustration knotting behind my ribs. "So you weren't playing both of us," I said slowly. "You were using me as an escape route." Her silence was the answer. I backed up a step without meaning to. "You put me in danger," I said quietly, without telling me. "I know," she whispered. "I didn't think he'd go after you. I didn't think—" "That's the problem," I said. "You didn't think. You made choices that affected people who had no idea what you were pulling us into." She broke then, collapsed into sobs so hard her entire body shook. "I'm sorry," she said over and over. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know how to leave him. And then you messaged me, and the truth came out, and now everything is exploding." I let her cry. Not because I forgave her, not because I understood, but because grief has to go somewhere. Eventually, I asked the only question that mattered now. What do you want me to do, Lila? She lifted her head, tears smudging into her makeup. I need help, she whispered. I don't have anyone else. My friends think I'm exaggerating. My parents said maybe I misread him. I need support. I need someone to help me navigate this because I'm scared of what he'll do next. No, I said softly. She blinked. What? I'm sorry you're scared. I'm sorry you're dealing with someone dangerous. I genuinely am. But I can't be part of this. This is bigger than me, bigger than you, bigger than anything I'm qualified to handle. Her face crumpled. Please. I can't, I repeated, firmer. I can't be the person you run to when he spirals. I won't be pulled back into Caleb's orbit. Not again. She looked crushed, but I wasn't done. What I can do, I said, is tell you the only step that matters now. I walked to the door, opened it. You need to go to the police. Tonight. You need to show them everything. Every message, every voicemail, every time he showed up. You need a restraining order, and you need a therapist who can help you understand why you stayed, why you ignored the danger signs, why you thought dragging someone else into this would protect you. She stood slowly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I really am sorry, she whispered. I believe you, I said, but sorry doesn't fix the situation. Only action will. She stepped into the hall, took a shaky breath, and left. I shut the door, locked it, double-locked it, then slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor, arms wrapped around my knees, shaking from a fear I hadn't let myself feel until she was gone. Before I did anything else, before my adrenaline even settled, I grabbed my phone and typed a message to Nolan. Call me in the morning, something's happening. What I didn't know yet, what none of us knew, is that the moment Lila walked into that police station, the truth wasn't going to liberate her. It was going to detonate her entire world. And Caleb's, too. The next morning, my phone rang before I'd even finished my first cup of coffee. Unknown number. For a moment, my stomach dropped. I thought it was Caleb. But when I answered, the voice on the other end wasn't angry. It was calm, professional. Ms. Cartwright, this is Detective Harris with the precinct downtown. Are you available to speak for a few minutes? I stood up so fast my chair scraped against the floor. Yes, I said, of course. The detective cleared her throat gently, as if preparing me for something serious. We received a report last night from Ms. Lila Moreno. She listed you as someone who could corroborate certain details about Mr. Caleb Foster's behavior over the past few weeks. Would you be willing to answer a few questions? I closed my eyes. Lila actually did it. She'd gone to the police. Yes, I said, I'm willing. For the next hour, I paced my living room while recounting everything. My 9 months with Caleb, the exclusivity conversation, the cheating, the night he lied about being sick, the photo Nolan sent me, the breakup call, the engagement, the burner account, the threats Caleb made to me afterward. Detective Harris took notes quietly, occasionally asking me to clarify timelines or repeat exact wording. When I finished, she said something that made the back of my neck prickle. This isn't the first time we've had a complaint involving Mr. Foster. What do you mean? He has a prior incident from 2 years ago, she said. A woman named Sophie Lang filed for a restraining order. It eventually expired, but the behavior described was similar. Love bombing, jealousy, escalating threats when she tried to end things. My heart lurched. Caleb wasn't just a bad boyfriend. He was a pattern, a cycle, a storm that formed the same way every time. Bright charm, sweeping romance, then tightening control until someone tried to escape and he snapped. We've issued a temporary restraining order for Ms. Moreno, the detective continued. She's staying with coworkers for now. We're treating her report seriously. I hung up later feeling nauseous, not just because of the danger Lila was in, but because of the danger I had unknowingly been in too. People think you can spot the unstable ones, that something in their eyes will betray the danger underneath. That fear will flare instinctively like a sixth sense. But Caleb looked normal, charming even. A man with a favorite coffee order and a goofy laugh and a habit of stealing the last French fry from your plate. Danger doesn't always look like danger. Sometimes it looks like someone who kisses you on the forehead and calls you babe. The restraining order lasted less than a week before Caleb violated it. Twice. Once, he showed up at Lila's workplace, red-faced, shouting, insisting he just wanted to talk. Security escorted him out. The second time, he created 2 fake social media accounts and sent her long, rambling messages about how she ruined his life and he would never forgive her betrayal. That one earned him an arrest. I saw the news through Nolan first. Screenshots of public records, murmurs in our friend group, vague social media posts from people who knew someone involved. It was surreal watching the avalanche from a distance. Part of me felt sick, knowing I had lit the fuse that eventually exposed him. Part of me felt vindicated. And part of me, maybe the biggest part, felt grateful. Grateful I got out. Grateful I believed him when he told me he didn't owe me loyalty. Grateful I didn't spend another year ignoring truths that were already tearing through the fabric of his relationships. 3 weeks after her midnight visit, she emailed me. A long one. Pages, practically. She apologized. Not in a shallow, deflecting way, but with a startling level of clarity. She admitted she'd ignored red flags, that she'd been swept up in Caleb's intensity, that she'd convinced herself she could manage him, calm him, avoid making him angry. She acknowledged that by staying, she'd put both of us at risk, that using me, our overlap, his guilt, her advantage, as a way to quietly detach from him was reckless and unfair. She told me she was in therapy. She told me she finally understood how dangerous he was. She told me she didn't expect forgiveness. She just wanted me to know she was trying to rebuild herself from the inside out. I read the email twice. Then I closed it. I didn't respond. Not from anger, from closure. There are some wounds you don't reopen, even out of kindness. Caleb is still awaiting trial. His lawyer is trying to mold him into a heartbroken man who reacted poorly after being cheated on. But the prosecution has his history, the prior restraining order, the messages to Lila, the workplace incident, the arrest. Truth piles up, eventually heavy enough that even the strongest lies can't support its weight. Mutual friends whisper updates sometimes. He lost his job. His family is keeping their distance. People who once praised him as charming are now saying things like, "I always got a weird vibe," even though they never said a word before. Funny how people rewrite their memories once the truth comes out. It's been 3 months since I opened my door to find Lila falling apart on my doorstep. 3 months of learning how to sleep without checking my locks twice. 3 months of reorienting myself to a version of the world where danger isn't always loud. It can be quiet, smiling, and wearing cologne that lingers on your pillows long after he's gone. People ask me if I regret contacting Lila, if I regret sending the screenshots, if I feel guilty for the chaos that followed. I don't. He didn't unravel because of me. He unraveled because of who he already was. Truth doesn't create monsters. It reveals them. And sometimes, when you least expect it, it protects the people who needed protecting all along. I learned something else too. If someone tells you they don't owe you loyalty, believe them. They're telling you exactly who they are and exactly how they will treat you the moment things get complicated. And when things inevitably do get complicated, those are the same people who will show up at your door at midnight, red-eyed, terrified, asking for help from the loyalty they claimed they never had to give. I feel sympathy for Lila. Truly. No one deserves to live in fear, even if they made terrible choices along the way. I'm glad she's safe. I hope she heals. But I'm glad I walked away. Boundaries aren't cruelty. They're protection. They're wisdom earned from pain. And for the first time in months, I feel something that isn't anger or regret or fear. Relief. Relief that the truth finally caught up to the people running from it. Relief that I trusted my instincts. Relief that my life is quiet again, my own again. Because quiet, it turns out, is not something to take for granted. Quiet is safety. Quiet is peace. Quiet is what you get after the storm moves on and you refuse to let it circle back.